Your daughter will grow up and become the President of the United States.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Leftist Extremism. Now, I've been doing this for a while now, but lately, every week, the leftist media gets more bizarre. Where to begin this week? After months of the leftist media telling us about the importance of politicians accepting the results of elections, NBC gave us Hillary Clinton on Wednesday, explaining how she was just so confident of winning in 2016 that she didn't even bother writing a concession speech. Apparently, she preferred to ignore reality, and they just showed excerpts of her reading her fantasy victory speech.
Hillary Clinton sharing her thoughts on the state of the country and an exclusive emotional reading for the first time of her would-be election night victory speech from 2016.
I worked on a speech that really was about my journey and had a real emphasis on my mother's life and journey.
Your daughter will grow up and become the President of the United States.
Now that is powerful.
Powerfully pathetic. Wow. Hillary's would have been a victory speech requires an entire news block. I can't wait. I'm sure they're going to do the same segment with Trump on what would have been his victory speech, right? I'm sure that NBC News and his mutated cable variants seem a little confused about what news actually is. I mean, they can't even agree on just how good inflation is under Joe Biden. I mean, NBC seems pretty sure you can afford it.
As you say, inflation's over 6%, numbers we haven't seen in more than 30 years. So how much higher can these prices go, and when do you see them coming down?
Well, listen, Willie, nobody knows exactly when they're going down, but you have to put all this in perspective. While nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so.
So says the NBC talent worth $6 million.
While nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so.
Yeah, you have plenty of money. Love Joe, loves inflation. Except on CNBC, wait, what's this?
This 6% inflation is impacting Americans, particularly those most vulnerable. It's very easy to get caught up, when you're in these positions of government, to get caught up in the DC bubble or the power bubble. At the end of the day, you cannot lose sight. These are everyday Americans that are either seniors on fixed income, the minority community that's still trying to raise their standard of living, and this 6% inflation is devastating to them.
No, it can't be devastating. What about that dirty secret?
And the dirty little secret here, Willie, while nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so.
This is the problem when the leftist networks are as confused as the Democratic Party they're mouthpieces for on how to sell messaging for Biden. I mean, meanwhile, over at CNN, when their hosts aren't busy texting information and assistance to suspects in criminal investigations like Andrew Cuomo and Jussie Smollett, they are recognizing the anniversary of Pearl Harbor by warning you of the next civil war that will happen if you don't believe them and listen and obey the leftists. I mean, this is a pretty insane stretch.
Today marks 80 years since the infamous surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, a day that would change the course of our nation's history. Just as the strength of our democracy was tested then, we find ourselves yet again in a different but just as dangerous war on truth and democracy and science. CNN's John Avlon is here with a reality check.
Now, 80 years ago today, Pearl Harbor was attacked, dragging America into the Second World War. It remains a date which lives in infamy, as FDR said. But it followed more than a decade of depression, in which democracy seemed to be in retreat against authoritarian regimes. By comparison, we have it easy. But democracies are again suffering from self-doubt as authoritarians seem on the march. Over the past 6 years, America's endured sustained assaults on truth, democracy, and science, leading to reduced trust in our institutions and each other.
Yeah, just like Pearl Harbor, this stretch gets even better.
That attack caught America by surprise, but within a few years, the world found out that a diverse democracy has strengths that authoritarian regimes just can't match.
Of course, authoritarian regimes rule with edicts and mandates, but CNN loves those.
And yet today, there's expected to be a
bipartisan vote in the Senate against President Biden's vaccine mandates for employees and employers, with the Democrats, Manchin and Tester signaling that they will be voting with Republicans on this. It's still unlikely for this to become law because it would have to pass the House, and of course President Biden's not going to sign it, but still a bipartisan vote against vaccine mandates.
How can you be against government mandates and diktats? Authoritarian orders are now good for you, and it's not just CNN. On ABC, to not allow massive federal overreach by Biden is to deny science itself.
And on that note, we're going to turn to Washington now, where vaccine mandates here at home are under fire. Senate Republicans voting to repeal President Biden's plan to order large businesses to require vaccines for its workers. Congressional correspondent Rachel Scott joining us now from Capitol Hill. Rachel, this attack flies in the face of health expert recommendations.
You certainly can't let businesses decide how to handle their contracts with their own employees. You need a presidential diktat. It's an attack.
Rachel, this attack flies in the face of health expert recommendations.
ABC's Good Morning America warns of lots of attacks, but they themselves just won't attack the story of the Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax trial. In fact, GMA didn't give Smollett coverage for 656 days. Not until the hate crime hoax guilty verdicts were actually announced. You do have to wonder why.
I sat down with the Empire Star for his first interview since that night in Chicago. He opened up about what he's learned and the bigger message he wants the world to hear. What do you feel people need to hear the most from this story?
I think that what people need to hear is just the truth. It's just the truth.
Except on ABC, when the network doesn't like the truth, then they'll just ignore it and there's no coverage for 656 days. Maybe they're just embarrassed? Good Morning America is sponsored by Macy's. Give them a call. Let them know how you feel about their support for a parade of dunces. The dunces at MSNBC also got confused this week as they attempted to find new ways to prop up the failure that is the Joe Biden administration. President Biden met with Vladimir Putin to discuss Russia's potential invasion force on the Ukrainian border. And to prop up Biden and as to why Russia wouldn't dare invade, David Ignatius of the Washington Post made a pretty interesting argument.
I just was looking this morning at all the costs to Putin of an invasion. He would wreck his economy. He would galvanize the Europeans and all other U.S. allies against Russia, and I think also against China, in a way that would have lasting repercussions. And he also is going to face a guerrilla warfare, an extended partisan warfare in Ukraine. I counted 400,000 people who've received some kind of militia training. There are 1 million guns floating around Ukraine. I mean, it's a place where it would be hard to subdue the population.
Right. Whoa, MSNBC is discussing how an armed civilian population can thwart a tyrant.
There are 1 million guns floating around Ukraine. I mean, it's a place where it would be hard to subdue the population.
Right. Well, Morning Joe just must love having these pro-NRA guests. Maybe not.
The NRA has used this BS phrasing of a slippery slope for too many years to prevent legislation and to weaken legislation. We've been on the slippery slope. While they've been saying they're worried about it, they've had us on it. We see in states that are even doing things to make it worse. It is time for the national government to step up.
Maybe they just like pro-Biden guests. I'm Eric Shiner for MRCTV, asking you to visit the MRC Store and pick up some great gifts for the Christmas season. Also, head over to MRCTV for the latest videos, stories, and entertainment. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe on the social media platform of your choice. I'll be taking a break, but we will return shortly with a whole new year of leftist media madness.